time where India is making very clear there's only one way, which is peace, dialogue and negotiations.
Gaurav, what about the, he answered very briefly that, about the bilateral with the Chinese foreign minister. What did you pick up from that? He pretty much said what he tweeted as well, which is that the discussion centered around, the bilateral challenges, especially peace and tranquility in the border areas. Was there any indication from what he said, that there has been any kind of forward movement?
Well, there's a very firm stand that India has taken, and there's a reiteration of that stand. And that stand is for the relationship to move forward. Peace and tranquility at the borders is essential. That's the basic. And if you notice, from 2020 to 2023, India's stance has remained the same. For this relationship to move forward, China will have to restore the April-May 2020 situation. Now, we're still waiting for a readout of the Chinese side. Perhaps that'll come today, later tomorrow, maybe what the Chinese Foreign Ministry says, and we'll have a little more idea of what the Chinese thinking is. But there is no dilution of India's stand. Remember, Shiv, you and I have talked about this before. You and I have covered this on Ground Zero. It's the largest standoff between the armies of India and China that's on from April-May 2020 till now, and neither side willing to back down.
Okay, neither side willing to back down. Let's just quickly summarize for you what the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has just said. He said that an attempt was made to evolve consensus, but that hasn't happened at the G20 so far. Attempts are still, of course, being made. Today is day one. Tomorrow is day two of the foreign ministers meet. But let me just read out exactly what our sources have told us pertaining to this particular story. It says, we spent about 45 minutes talking to each other. He's talking about his meeting with the foreign minister of China. He also says that the Ukraine conflict has been the main reason for no joint consensus or communique as part of the G20 foreign ministers meet so far. Take a look at the crucial soundbite from what the foreign minister just said.
I met Minister Chingang on the sidelines of the conference this afternoon. It's our first meeting after he took over as foreign minister. So we spent, I don't know, maybe about 45 minutes talking to each other. There are real problems in that relationship that need to be looked at, that need to be discussed very openly and candidly between us. That's what we sought to do today. We also had a brief discussion on what was happening in the G20 framework, but the thrust of the meeting was really on our bilateral relationship and the challenges in the bilateral relationship, especially that of peace and tranquility in the border areas.
Okay, Gaurav continues to be with me. Gaurav, Dr. Jaishankar saying very clearly in no ambiguous terms that it is the Ukraine war that has been mainly responsible for the lack of any kind of consensus in the G20 foreign ministers meet so far. Today is day one, tomorrow is day two, Gaurav. Are we to understand that the delegations, the teams are still trying to work something out? Because Lavrov came out all guns blazing today against the Western delegations.
Oh, he absolutely did. In fact, he hit out at some of the Western, leaders, given that some of them, according to him, boycotted or stayed away from the dinner. Some of them behaved, as he said, in a very difficult manner. But the effort, India's effort has been to bring Russia and America at least on the talking table, on the dialogue table. And the External Affairs Minister responded to a question. There was some speculation that the Russian Foreign Minister and the American Secretary of State would be meeting separately away from cameras. He did respond that, well, there was some movement, but not in as many words. So India has been trying. Have we been successful as a nation? Maybe not completely at this stage, but the effort continues. Then again, Shiv, India's point is that one issue of Russia-Ukraine conflict or something that Europe and America are focused on should not derail G20 that talks about not just what's happening in the developed world, but the developing economies. It's the voice of the global south that must be heard. The issues that the developing economies face, whether it's food security or energy security, rising prices, climate challenges, all of these are issues that must be addressed, and they're equally important and cannot be held hostage to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And that's the point India has been repeatedly making. Unfortunately, European countries and America remain focused on trying to ostracize Russia or have other countries call out Russia for the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Shiv.
Gaurav, stay with me, because the Russia-Ukraine war, which Gaurav has covered, he was the first Indian journalist there last year once the invasion began, it remains, this whole year later, the biggest elephant in the room. It's the biggest world issue, and it's also the biggest elephant in the room at this ongoing G20 Foreign Ministers meet in India's national capital. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held that bilateral with Sergei Lavrov earlier today. The Russian Foreign Minister, also well known as one of Russian President Vladimir Putin's right-hand men, was here, and he, like I said, began his public engagements by attacking all of the Western delegations and basically saying that they've been blackmailing other economies. In his briefing, Lavrov not only lauded India and Prime Minister Modi's role in governance as the Ukraine war shadow loomed across the globe, but continuing his tirade against the Western nations, Lavrov claimed that it was the West, especially the United States and the UK, that had derailed peace talks between Russia and Ukraine and had been amping up pressure to isolate Russia from the rest of the world. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar also addressed the global impact of the war that has been raging for over 12 months now. Jaishankar stated that while the G20 focused on strengthening multilateralism, the war's impact has largely affected the global south. And he very tellingly said, it is this war that has meant no joint communique, no joint consensus has been involved at the G20 so far.
Is the conflict impacting the global south? Of course it is. I mean, it's not something new. In fact, India has been saying this very strongly for pretty much close to a year, that this is affecting. In fact, today in my own session, I actually used the word saying, for much of the global south, this is a make or break issue. That the costs of fuel, the cost of food, the cost of fertilizer, the availability of fertilizer, which means next year's food, these are all extremely pressing issues. And if you see some of the countries who were already struggling with debt, who were already impacted by the pandemic, for them, this conflict, the knock-on effects of this conflict coming on top of that has been really, damaging is a very, very mild word. On one particular issue, because of very polarized views of some countries, we were not able to bridge it on this particular occasion. Whereas, as our colleague pointed out from there, we were able to do that with, a number of us were able to do that collectively in Bali. But obviously, the Bali situation today, for whatever reason, some countries feel cannot be extrapolated. In fact, this meeting was able to get everybody around the table. And as I said, this is no easy task given the state of polarization in the world.
Today, when addressing the participants of the foreign minister meeting, President Modi, I think he presented balanced and responsible position of the country as the president of the G20. And in this address, he was not just speaking about some isolated individual situations, because the West is trying to divide the geopolitical picture into individual episodes. But in the address by Mr. Modi, he gave the assessment of the situation across the globe.
Оценка общего состояния дел в мире, напомню в очередной раз.
When we are called to start negotiations, I do not remember anyone from the Western colleagues, anyone else from any other countries, talk to Ukraine to call them upon them to start negotiations, because Ukraine is encouraged to continue war. When Ukraine was ready to be engaged in negotiations last March, Ukraine was slapped on the wrists. Everyone knows this, the United States, the United Kingdom, and from what I understand, they told the Kiev regime, if Russians are ready to sign an agreement on resolving the situation, it means that we need to drag it out, that we need to make them weaker to achieve the victory on the battlefield, to defeat them on the battlefield, to achieve the strategic defeat of Russia.
Стратегического поражения России.
Let's bring Gaurav back in on this. Gaurav, what does this say about what's going to happen next between Russia and Ukraine? Because you've got Lavrov pretty much pointing a direct finger at the US and UK and saying that any possibility of normalization of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have been hampered deliberately by the UK and the United States.
Shiv, this has been Russia's case all throughout, that Russia is actually fighting the United States and NATO. Ukraine is just a tool in between. Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, they couldn't move forward because America and the UK didn't want it, according to Sergei Lavrov. So that's one part of the story. The second part is that even President Putin pointed out how Europe and America continue to arm Ukraine, and that's actually prolonging the war, that's prolonging the pain that people are facing. The global effort should be to bring about a consensus, negotiated settlement, dialogue, and that is not happening. The war is actually being encouraged with more weapons being supplied to Ukraine. That's, of course, Russia's point of view. India's point of view constantly has been that India can play a role, but a settlement can only be found through dialogue. Hostilities need to stop. Dialogue is the way forward, and that is where the world needs to come together. But as External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar clearly pointed out, that the stance taken by the opposing sides are so diverse that it wasn't possible to bridge that gap today.
Gaurav, stay with me. Let's listen into what Prime Minister Modi said in his address earlier today to the G20 Foreign Ministers. Remember, this is how the summit today began. It's been a very dramatic day. Many things have been said. But here's what the Prime Minister said right at the start.
They are also the ones most affected by global warming caused by richer countries. This is why India's G20 presidency has tried to give a voice to the global south. No group can claim global leadership without listening to those most affected by its decisions. Excellencies, we are meeting at a time of deep global divisions. As Foreign Minister, it is but natural that your discussions are affected by the geopolitical tensions of the day. We all have our positions and our perspectives on how this tension should be resolved. We must also admit that the tragic consequences of this failure are being faced most of all by the developing countries. After years of progress, we are at risk today of moving back on the sustainable development goals. Many developing countries are struggling with unsustainable debt while trying to ensure food and energy security for their people. We have seen stable economies suddenly overwhelmed by debt and financial crisis. These experiences clearly show the need for resilience in our societies, in our economies, in our healthcare systems, and in our infrastructure. The G20 has a critical role to play in finding the right balance between growth and efficiency on one hand and resilience on the other. We can reach this balance more easily by working together. That is why your meeting is important. I have full trust in your collective wisdom and ability. I am sure that today's meeting will be ambitious, inclusive, action-oriented, and will rise above differences. Excellencies, we must all acknowledge that multilateralism is in crisis today. The architecture of global governance created after the Second World War was to serve two functions. First, to prevent future wars by balancing competing interests. Second, to foster international cooperation on issues of common interests. The experience of the last few years, financial crisis, climate change, pandemic, terrorism, and wars clearly shows that global governance has failed. At the leading economies of the world, we also have a responsibility toward those who are not in this room. The world looks upon the G20 to ease the challenges of growth, development, economic resilience, disaster resilience, financial stability, transnational crime, corruption, terrorism, and food and energy security. In all these areas, the G20 has capacity to build consensus and deliver concrete results. India has selected the theme of One Earth, One Family, One Future for its G20 presidency. It signals the need for unity of purpose and unity of action. I hope that your meeting today will reflect the spirit of coming together for achieving common and concrete objectives.
Let's go across to India Today's Akshay Dongre for more. Akshay, what does the rest of the day look like as far as the G20 is concerned? These very big bilaterals have just taken place. What next?
Well, Shiv, as far as the rest of the day is concerned, there is going to be a press conference by the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken.
Yeah.
So we have seen fireworks now coming from Sergei Lavrov, who accused the UK, the US, the entire West of sabotaging the outcomes of the G20, of how India would have expected it to be as far as the foreign ministers meet is concerned. In fact, Sergei Lavrov also apologized, according to our colleague Geeta Mohan, who has been reporting all day on this, that Sergei Lavrov also apologized on behalf of the West that this is not how the entire event should have been, how the outcome should have been. So now we can expect a fireback from Antony Blinken as far as the allegations by Russia is concerned. Yes, there were very important bilaterals as far as the joint commune, however, is concerned. The countries could not be brought to a consensus. Dr. S. Jaishankar, the foreign ministers, had just held a briefing right here where I'm standing right now. He also said that we tried really hard, and it's not just India. They tried really hard. There are a lot of countries who tried to persuade to bridge the gap between the West and the Russia and China, but there could not be a consensus. In fact, the the document of the G20 has come. The consensus document has come, and there is a footnote there that all countries agree to the joint document except para 3 and 4, which is not acceptable by China and Russia. This is similar to what happened in Bengaluru, where during the finance ministers meet, a similar kind of thing happened when when the G20 members tried to replicate the Bali Declaration. The para 3 and 4, which mentions war, which mentions Ukraine, which mentions aggression, they could not be accepted by China and Russia. Situations have changed, yes. On the ground in Ukraine, there is a lot of pressure on Russia as far as this conflict is concerned.
Stay with me, Akshay. Let me just come back to you in just a moment. This, another big sort of Kodak moment at the G20, has been the meeting between the Prime Minister and the Italian Prime Minister as well. Many, many important images from the G20 have come to the fore. Some of those images have gone viral as well. This high-octane Raisina dialogue also scheduled today. It's India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geostrategy is also kicking off today. On the sidelines of that dialogue, Prime Minister Modi held talks with his Italian counterpart, Giorgia Meloni, at Hyderabad House. Prime Minister Modi hailed the India-Italy 75th anniversary of that bilateral relationship. The Italian Prime Minister lauded Prime Minister Modi for having the highest approval ratings in the world for a world leader. Both leaders vowed to strengthen bilateral ties and joined hands to begin defense cooperation as well.
एक और क्षेत्र है जो दोनों देश एक नया अध्याय शुरू कर रहे हैं और वो है रक्षा सहयोग का। भारत में डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में को प्रोडक्शन एंड को डेवलपमेंट के अवसर बन रहे हैं जो दोनों देशों के लिए लाभदायक हो सकते हैं। हमने दोनों देशों की सेनाओं के बीच नियमित रूप से जॉइंट एक्सरसाइज और ट्रेनिंग कोर्सेज आयोजित करने का भी निर्णय लिया। आतंकवाद और अलगाववाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में भारत और इटली कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चल रहे हैं। हमने इस सहयोग को और मजबूत करने पर विस्तार पूर्वक चर्चा की। एक और क्षेत्र है जो दोनों देश एक नया अध्याय शुरू कर रहे हैं और वो है रक्षा सहयोग का। भारत में डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में को प्रोडक्शन एंड को डेवलपमेंट के अवसर बन रहे हैं जो दोनों देशों के लिए लाभदायक हो सकते हैं। हमने दोनों देशों की सेनाओं के बीच नियमित रूप से जॉइंट एक्सरसाइज और ट्रेनिंग कोर्सेज आयोजित करने का भी निर्णय लिया। आतंकवाद और अलगाववाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में भारत और इटली कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चल रहे हैं। हमने इस सहयोग को और मजबूत करने पर विस्तार पूर्वक चर्चा की। यूक्रेन संघर्ष के शुरुआत से ही भारत ने यह स्पष्ट किया है कि इस विवाद को केवल डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के जरिए ही सुलझाया जा सकता है और भारत किसी भी शांति प्रक्रिया में योगदान देने के लिए पूर्ण रूप से तैयार है।
I firmly believe that there's a lot that we can do together, and I'm not sure if this will lead me to the approval rate that the Prime Minister Modi has reached. I think is that the most loved one of all around the world. But I mean, this has really proven that he has been a major leader, and congratulations for that, Prime Minister. This is my first bilateral visit in this region ever since I took office, and we want to further boost this relation, and this is the reason why we have decided to turn our partnership in a strategic partnership, because we have a very solid relationship. There's a lot to be working on together, starting from some sectors where we want to enhance our cooperation. Let me mention defense, which was mentioned by the Prime Minister, and energy security. India has set up major objectives in this connection. Prime Minister Modi knows very well Italy's position, which is giving full support to the territorial integrity of Ukraine, and we both hope that India, having the presidency of the G20, may play a central role in facilitating a negotiating process for the cessation of hostilities for a just peace.
We've got some breaking news coming in that the Quad meet of the 4 foreign ministers of the Quad alliance of India, the United States, Japan and Australia will be meeting on the 3rd of March. That's the breaking story that I'm bringing to you right now. I want to go across to India today's Akshay Dongre, who's with me live on this story. Akshay, big Quad meet on the 3rd of March. India, Australia, the United States, Japan, the foreign ministers of these 4 countries will be meeting right after the G20 Foreign Ministers meet.
Well, absolutely, Shiv, and this is going to be a big meeting because it's happening at the sidelines of India's Raisina dialogue that is taking place right now. But when we are talking about the 4 foreign ministers that will be taking part, it is noteworthy to mention here that even the Japanese foreign minister will be taking part in this particular meeting, because he was not present here today. As far as the G20 foreign ministers meeting is concerned. But the major news point here is that how is it going to impact the coalition here? Because when we are talking about the Quad Leader Summit that took place earlier, we saw that when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he was in Japan, we saw that Russia and Japan and China conducted, there was an air exercise that was very close to Japanese water, which is very clear that China and Russia are urged by the Quad. So how exactly are they going to respond to this meeting that is taken just after the G20 summit? That is a big question, but certainly it is not going to go down well with China at least. And when it comes to Russia as well, Russia has also been dismissive of the efforts, especially by Japan and the US. In terms of trying to forge closer ties with India, which it also considers a very, very traditional ally.
China,
there will be a meeting.
China has been very dismissive of the Quad. It's going to be interesting to see, what reaction comes in from China, because, obviously a Quad meeting of the 4 foreign ministers of India, the US, Japan and Australia was always going to be on the cards, on the sidelines of this geopolitical, event here in the national capital of India. Gaurav, what would you say about this Quad meeting happening at this time?
Shiv, this is a very important grouping, and this grouping, even though Japan's deputy foreign minister is here, not the foreign minister, but this grouping remains extremely important, and China keeps a hawk eye. It does feel very threatened by this grouping, especially as you and Akshay have been reporting on the freedom of navigation patrols that have been carried out, including in South and East China Sea by this grouping. The fact that multiple exercises and multilateral exercises have been carried out by this grouping. They talk about counter-terrorism, they talk about disaster relief, whatever they may do. The fact that there's interoperability in these nations, the area in which they operate, that's India's backwaters. That's also an area where China is trying to make inroads, and that is where China feels extremely threatened, especially with the intelligence sharing, with anti-submarine warfare, service navies operating together. And that is where China knows that the moment it crosses the Malacca Straits, enters India's backwaters, then it's actually dealing with multiple navies cooperating very close together, whether it's the United States of America or Japan or Australia or India. They're all operating in tandem, in sync about every movement, and that's critical.
Gaurav, thanks very much for joining me on this. Remember, the Prime Minister will be addressing the Raisina dialogue very, very shortly. It will be the Prime Minister's second address of the day. It's been a politically very satisfying day for the Prime Minister and his party, the BJP, over political performance in the three big state elections in the Northeast. But he's got his hands full today with the Raisina dialogue and the G20 because he is, after all, playing host. That big speech is coming up by the Prime Minister very shortly. These are some of the big events that have taken place around the G20. Come right back. We'll have the Prime Minister speaking live and also a big press conference by the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. All of that and much more in our continuing broadcast right here on India Today. Stay with us.
जैसे सबसे तेज आपकी टैगलाइन है, तो इसी तरह से सबसे तेज हमारी सरकार की लाइफलाइन है.
Leader must have a vision.
We will continue to work with the developing and the developed world for win-win solutions.
Nature had of course willed the survival of the fittest.
हम आतंकवाद के खिलाफ जीरो टॉलरेंस की पॉलिसी को अपनाए हुए हैं.
एक साल के अंदर राहुल कन्वर की कार जो होगी वो इलेक्ट्रिक की होगी.
There is a confrontation of competing visions.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is back. The Terminator star is all set to return with an upcoming comedy series titled Fubar.
I'm back, baby.
The drama will address normal family concerns set against a worldwide backdrop of espionage, action and humor, forcing characters to work together as partners.
Back, baby.
Oh, that's what you get for being sentimental. The 8-episodic series will also feature Monica Barbaro, Jay Baruchel, Fortune famester Milan Carter, and Travis Van Winkle, among others. Fubar will premiere on 25th May on streaming giant Netflix.
I'm back, baby.
Oh, that's what you get for being sentimental.
In a crowded place, can you just imagine? It's unparalleled, the way it all just happened. If you can't have
Wow singer Sabrina Carpenter and Shawn Mendes are reportedly dating, and the couple was spotted strolling in Los Angeles.
asking what it's like to be loved like this, to be recognized behind the scenes, make me vulnerable, you make me so vulnerable.
I won't lie to you.
The Treat You Better hitmaker was spotted wearing a pair of blue corduroy pants, a white shirt and a shearling-lined jean jacket for the outing, while Carpenter kept things casual in an oversized black sweatshirt and sneakers.
And you're spending all your time in this wrong situation, and anytime you want it to stop, I know I can treat you better than he can. And any girl like you.
The news of their dating comes as a surprise after Shawn Mendes was reportedly linked romantically with his chiropractor Dr. Jocelyn Miranda. According to reports, the couple has been spending a lot of time together following Shawn Mendes' split from Camila Cabello after 3 years of dating.
I'll stop time for you the second you say you'd like me to. रुख जिंदगी ने मोड़ लिया कैसा, हमने सोचा नहीं था कभी ऐसा, आता नहीं यकीन क्या से क्या हो गया, किस तरह मैं तुमसे बेवफा हो गया।
This short video has made Amarjeet Jaikar an overnight internet sensation.
मेरे सामने थी जो वो गली जिसमें रहती थी एक परी, उस पे मैं मर मिट गया।
Jaikar, who lives in Bhavwa village in Samastipur district, has been singing for 7 years. After the new video went viral, Lady Luck has smiled on him. Bollywood actor Sonu Sood is giving Jaikar a chance in his film Fateh. Jaikar is also exploring other options.
मैं अपना चेहरा देखा करता हूँ। कहते हैं ना कि एक बिहारी 100 पे भारी, तो एक चीज़ बहुत अच्छा सर ने लिखा था और मुझे ये नहीं पता था, मैं आपको कसम से बताऊं कि वायरल हो जाए मेरा वीडियो, ऐसा मेरा कुछ सोच नहीं था। बस ऐसा था कि फेसबुक जो होता है ना कुछ अर्निंग देता है, तो मुझे उसके बारे में पता चला, तो मैंने सोचा कि हाँ मैं वो करके अपना कुछ अच्छा कर पाऊँगा, तो बस करने लगा वीडियो अपलोड करने। नेशनल लेवल में अभी मैंने राइजिंग स्टार, सारेगामापा, इंडियन आइडल में मेरा इस बार सेकेंड राउंड तक मेरा हुआ था, उसके बाद फिर मैं चला आया घर। आने वाला पल जाने वाला है, हो सके तो इसमें जिंदगी बिता दो, पल जो ये जाने वाला है।
Jaikar credits his teacher for his success.
जाने वाला है। हमारे विक्की भैया थे, तो मैंने इनको बोला भैया कि मैं भी गाता हूँ, कि आप मुझे सिखाइएगा। तो बोले नहीं नहीं नहीं, तुमसे कुछ नहीं होगा, ये सब जो करता है बड़ा घर का लड़का करता है, जो संगीतकार का बच्चा होता है वही करता है। बोले नहीं नहीं, हम पूरा इनको रो रो के बोले थे, आप शायद इनको याद होगा। फिर 2 दिन बाद ये मेरे पास आया, बोले कि कैसे बजाते, तो मैं सारेगामापा सब वो उल्टा गलत बजा रहा था। तो फिर इन्होंने मुझे प्रारंभ जो होता है ना शुरुआती का, सब इन्होंने मुझे बताया। फिर मैं अनेकों गुरु से सीखना स्टार्ट कर दिया। तो सबसे प्रथम गुरु हमारे विक्की भैया। जिए तो जिए कैसे हाय बिन आप।
Jaikar's father runs a hair salon in the village.
लगता नहीं दिल कहीं।
It was when his father bought him a mobile phone that he put it to good use, shooting videos of songs with his scenic village as the background, which have now become a rage. Jaikar aims to support his family with the earning from his singing career. Bureau Report, India Today.
श्रीवल्ली में नामदक बर्फी।
And Prime Minister Modi has just tweeted his congratulations to BJP Karyakartas and workers on the election results in the 3 big northeastern states. Celebrations have broken out at the respective party offices in Nagaland, Tripura and Meghalaya. The Prime Minister, for instance, on Meghalaya has said, grateful to all those who have supported BJP in the assembly polls. We will keep working hard to enhance the development trajectory of Meghalaya and focus on empowering the people of the state. I'm also thankful to our party workers for the effort they put out on Tripura. He said, thank you, Tripura. This is a vote for progress and stability. The BJP will continue to boost the state's growth trajectory. I am proud of all Tripura BJP Karyakartas for their spectacular efforts at the grassroots levels. And in Nagaland, where the BJP is in alliance with the NDPP, he said, I thank the people of Nagaland for blessing the NDPP-BJP alliance with yet another mandate to serve the state. The double-engine government will keep working for the state's progress. I laud our party workers for their hard work, which has ensured this result. Let's go straight across to India Today's Preeti Chaudhary, who's been leading our broadcast through the day today and decoding these results. Preeti, the numbers are still firming up in some ways, but the mandate appears to be clear. There is talk of a big BJP celebration in the national capital as well. What are you hearing? How is the BJP looking at these numbers? Are they happy?
Well, Shiv, first up, I would hope you give your voice a rest. You're sounding quite bad there. But the numbers firmed up, Shiv. Now, most seats have been declared. Very few leads are left, 1 or 2 here or there. So, the election has been called in all 3 states. Tripura, 32. Seats have gone out of 60 have gone to BJP. So BJP clearly over the halfway mark. 30 was the halfway mark. And that's the reason why you have this tweet by the Prime Minister where he says, thank you, Tripura. This is a vote for progress, stability. BJP in Tripura will continue to boost the state's growth trajectory. I'm proud of all Tripura Karyakartas for their spectacular efforts at the grassroots. So this is Tripura, BJP's home. And Tripura was very important, Shiv, for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Understandably, a party in 2013, 2% went to 2018 to 44%, practically, taking the entire Congress vote base with it. Many had called it an inorganic growth. So for this, it's consolidation by the BJP. It's consolidated on the vote it got in 2018. So it's a big, big one for the Bharatiya Janata Party there. On the other hand, Shiv, it'll be interesting because if you look at these 3 tweets, now this is a tweet which calls out the win, thanks the Karyakarta, says we're going to do a great job going ahead where Tripura is concerned. On the other hand, you have this 3rd tweet which he's thanking the people of Nagaland and blessings to the NDPP. He's in alliance, which is the BJP's in alliance with the NDPP there. The BJP right now has zeroed in on 12 seats in Nagaland. So that's not bad at all. And with the NDPP, they are well over the 34 figure. So, they're in majority. They're going to form the government there. He says that this alliance is yet another mandate to serve the state. The double-engine government will keep working for the state's progress. I laud our party workers for their hard work, which ensured this result. So, he's talking about the double-engine growth there as well. But what's interesting also is right on top. Now, that is his last tweet, which is Meghalaya. He says, grateful to all those who have supported BJP in Meghalaya. We will keep working hard to enhance development trajectory of Meghalaya and focus on empowering the people of the state. I'm thankful to our party workers for the effort that they put in. Meghalaya, Shiv, the BJP, which looked as if it would have trebled its tally, it was 2 in 2018, has now wrapped up its tally at 3. So it's increased by 1, but still 3 is rather less, but enough for it to form the government with the NPP. Because the NPP is at 25 right now, so plus 3, and with a few more in independents, BJP, there would be an alliance, but the alliance hasn't formed up. So that's the reason why there is no congratulations to the NPP. So, wait for that tweet also to come up, how the alliance comes together in Meghalaya.
Okay, Preeti, thanks for rounding that up for us. The Prime Minister will be headed to the BJP headquarters in the national capital a little after 7 p.m. It's been a very busy day for him. But remember, this is the first set of elections in 2023. The road to 2024 has begun in right earnest, and the BJP will milk this to the hilt. They see this as a big political message that 2024 is a done deal. Look at how 2023 has begun. All of that will happen at the BJP headquarters starting 7 p.m. with the Prime Minister there. Preeti will bring you that special live broadcast at 7 p.m. Don't forget to tune in. Up next after this very short break, remember, we're waiting on the Prime Minister's big speech at the Raisina Dialogues. Gaurav Sawant takes you through that special broadcast on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
have seen Iron Man Tony Stark wear it to reach war zones. You have seen Shah Rukh Khan and John Abraham wage a war in the sky wearing these. Jetpack suits are now going to be part of military drills and rescue operations. The Indian Army will soon adopt jetpack technology. These suits will be used for enhanced tactical mobility on line of actual control amid border tensions with China. The Indian Aerospace Defence News shared a demo on Twitter of its jetpack flying over a water body, buildings and fields. Soldiers will be able to fly 10 to 15 meters in the air by wearing this suit powered by a gas turbine engine. They can clock a speed of 50 km per hour. Jetpacks were the center of attraction at the Aero India 2023 held recently.
अगर टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में बात करेंगे, ये पूरा टर्बोजेट इंजन से चलता है. इसका डीजल फ्यूल है. हमने डीजल इसलिए चूज़ किया कि डीजल का जो फ्लैश पॉइंट एंड फायर पॉइंट है वो नॉर्मल एविएशन फ्यूल से काफ़ी आगे है.
Jetpacks are being tested by armed forces across the world. These videos from the UK highlight the features of the technology. In the first video, one can see how a soldier lands on the deck and drops a ladder over the side for the
ranked number 1 in ease of doing business. All these speak volumes about how proactive the state is, especially when industry representatives now are part of the procedure which actually awards ease of doing business.
Andhra Pradesh, we have the natural advantage, especially for logistics sector. We have the excellent opportunities.
Infrastructure is very, very stable. So that's the reason why we decided to invest more business unit and bring from to Japan.
So come over to Andhra Pradesh, have a feel of the state, and I assure you that you would enjoy the way forward. And we are here to give you an experience in Andhra Pradesh that would be different from any other state.
Welcome to the Andhra Pradesh Global Investors Summit 2023, March 3rd and 4th in Visakhapatnam. Come experience the advantage Andhra Pradesh, where abundance meets prosperity.
I look forward to meeting you, all of you, once again in Visakhapatnam.
Foreign ministers of the world's most powerful nations are assembling in New Delhi for a G20 meet. Under the cloud of the
War is spectator sport. We are emperors of Rome.
Tom Hiddleston will reportedly reprise his role as the protagonist Jonathan Pine in the second season of Night Manager.
My name's Pine. I'm the night manager.
You bring the money to us, we give you back the boy.
You'll be in so deep, you'll worry that you'll never get out.
I got nothing to lose.
According to reports, the show will begin filming later this year in London and South America under the codename Steelworks.
My main man, my star. I think you might be playing both sides. We need Richard Roper. And going to get you out of here.
The series revolves around Pine, a former British soldier and night manager of a 5-star hotel in Cairo, who is hired by the head of a foreign office team to infiltrate Roper's inner circle.
Anyone can betray anyone.
Penned by Farr and directed by Susan Bayer, the first season also starred Olivia Colman, Tom Hollander, Elizabeth Debicki and David Harewood, among others.
I'm the night manager.
You bring the money to us, we give you back the boy.
You'll be in so deep, you'll worry that you'll never get out.
I got nothing to lose.
You saved my boy. Welcome to the family.
अंधेरे के उस पार रोशनी नहीं.
The Hindi adaptation of The Night Manager starring Aditya Roy Kapoor as Pine and Anil Kapoor as Roper was launched earlier this month on the OTT platform Disney Plus Hotstar and will reportedly have a second season as well.
It's showtime now.
शैलेंद्र रुंगटा एक आर्म्स डीलर है जो लोगों के खून से पैसा कमाता है.
मुझे छू भी पाना इंडियन इंटेलिजेंस के बस की बात ही नहीं है.
शली की लंका गिराने के लिए मुझे अपना विभीषण चाहिए.
मेरा इससे कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. मैं कोई सीक्रेट एजेंट नहीं हूँ. मैं एक नाइट मैनेजर हूँ.
Armed with facts, she takes the news by its horns.
You think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories. From every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Co-powered by Hyundai Ioniq 5, the all-electric SUV. Co-powered by घर लेना हो या बेचना 99 acres से ही पूछना. Co-powered by Aditya Birla Capital.
First India-China bilateral since the LAC standoff. Ukraine war divides the world.
You know, is the conflict impacting the global south? Of course it is.
Russia calls out Western hypocrisy.
Ukraine was slapped on the wrists. Everyone knows this. The United States, the United Kingdom.
Prime Minister says focus on what unites us.
We can reach this balance more easily by working together.
Vishwaguru spotlight on India.
Hello and welcome. You're watching India Today. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's word of advice to the G20 Foreign Ministers, a meeting that was attended by 27 foreign ministers and 2 ministers of state for foreign affairs.
multilateralism is facing a crisis. But the issue that we are raising here on India Today is the West holding the developing countries to ransom. What are the key takeaways? We'll discuss that in greater detail. I'm Gaurav Sawant as always. Let's get started with the headlines. India leads the global south at G20, says Ukraine war a make or break issue. Russia slams the hypocrisy of the West. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar and his Chinese counterpart hold talks on the LAC situation. Clear edge for the BJP in Tripura. BJP leads in 34 seats. Left and Congress lead in 14. Thirpa Mota leads in 11. Modi's victory lap at 7 p.m. in Delhi. BJP NDPP near 2/3 majority in Nagaland. BJP hopes to form government with NPP Meghalaya. There's a split verdict. Supreme Court orders SEBI probe on manipulation of stock prices in Adani Hindenburg case. Says report to expert panel within 2 months. Adani welcomes the move. Says truth shall prevail. Big Supreme Court verdict on appointment of Election Commission Chief. Says CEC must be appointed like the CBI Chief. Panel of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition in Parliament and the Chief Justice of India must appoint the CEC. Bulldozer